Throughout the history of crime, there have only been a handful of cases so perplexing as to be described as truly unexplainable. These cases often retain their shock value decades after the events take place. Never are these unsolved cases more puzzling than when they involve so-called normal people, just going about their daily lives, seemingly without enemies who would benefit from causing them harm. So today, here at Unexplained Mysteries, we'll be taking a look at these 3 bizarre and unexplainable mysteries that have devastated the lives of the unfortunate victims involved. Bill and Dorothy Wacker. Our first case centers around an elderly couple whom no one would have guessed would have inspired the campaign of terror that they were subjected to throughout their twilight years. Bill and Dorothy lived a seemingly quiet life in a small town, Massillon in Stark County, Ohio, for 48 years, until one day everything changed. They returned home to discover that their home had been turned upside down. Although their belongings were strewn about their house, strangely it seemed that nothing had actually been taken from the house. On this occasion, Bill and Dorothy decided not to contact the authorities, hoping to just forget about the unsettling event. However, the Wackers experienced another break-in the same year, which, understandably, left them shaken. Bizarrely, the house was again ransacked, although, once again, no possessions had actually been stolen from the property. After a third home invasion, the Wackers concluded that it was time to contact the police, who launched a full investigation. No suspect was ever identified. After 6 months of peace, things took an even stranger turn. Dorothy was at home recovering from heart surgery when a young man knocked on her door. Dorothy described the young man as having blonde hair and looking relatively clean-cut and unassuming. He stated that his car had broken down and asked if he could use their phone. Dorothy led him into the house, and it was then that she was violently struck over the head from behind. After regaining consciousness, she was stunned to find that she had been gagged and tied up in her own kitchen. Despite the vicious attack, Dorothy was not badly hurt and was able to give a detailed description to the police who, once again, were unable to track down the suspect. Unlike the previous break-ins, it was discovered that this time goods had been stolen from the house. However, the stolen goods were not necessarily high-value items, but were apparently of a random, eclectic nature. Items taken included a .22 caliber revolver, an antique watch, a video camera, and a radio scanner. Also, the strange message, "Cheaper but will do," was found scrawled on the wall with a child's crayon. It was after this violent event that the unseen stalker's harassment escalated. The Wackers found that even after changing their phone number several times, they were still subjected to odd, threatening and mocking phone calls at all times of the day and night from unknown numbers. It seemed clear that the perpetrator had the aim of causing significant psychological distress to the elderly couple. Bizarrely, the items that had been taken from the house began to be dumped at the front door in plastic bags, wiped clean of fingerprints or any evidence that would point to a suspect. The couple then began to experience banging on their door and the outside walls of their property, coupled with strange notes left at the front door. In 1993, a further attack at the couple's home left Dorothy with concussion and a cracked skull. The severity of this incident meant that the Wackers were driven to employ the help of friends and family who patrolled the property on the lookout for the intruder. However, on one occasion it seemed that the perpetrator was able to sneak past the Wackers' family and friends in order to leave another sinister note by the back door. The harassment continued unabated until Bill Wacker's death in 1999. To this day, no one has been identified as the likely perpetrator. Who could possibly have been behind the harassment? The couple had no known enemies. Throughout the years, many theories have been put forward, with some implying that a family member, perhaps even Bill himself, may have been responsible for the strange goings-on. With so much time having passed since the events took place, it is unlikely that the mystery will ever be solved. Helen Brach. Our second case is the strange story behind the disappearance of Helen Brach, who, unlike the other victims we will discuss, lived a life of luxury and opulence which most of us could only imagine. Born in 1911, Helen Brach was extremely wealthy due to the profits of the confectionery empire built by her late father-in-law. The death of her husband had made her a multimillionaire, with an estimated fortune of $17 million. Helen loved animals and used some of her enormous fortune to deal in horses. using another portion to set up an animal rights organization. At the time of her disappearance, Helen had recently begun a relationship with a Chicago man called Richard Bailey, who was infamous for his womanizing habits. One day in 1977, Helen attended a routine checkup at a medical clinic in Minnesota. Before she returned to her hotel room, she stopped at a gift store where she told the assistant, "I'm in a hurry, my houseman is waiting." This may have been the last time she was ever seen alive. Following her disappearance, Brach was declared legally dead in 1984. What were the circumstances behind the disappearance? After 37 years as a cold case, in 2015 evidence emerged that shed some light on the mystery. Documents were uncovered along with other evidence which suggest that Brach may have been kidnapped, beaten and shot on the orders of a notorious Chicago gangland horse dealer. It is alleged that her body was disposed of in a nearby steel furnace. Some have suggested that she became a target after threatening to alert the authorities to criminal activity perpetrated by the sinister horse mafia that operated around Chicago at this time. Helen's butler, Jack Matlick, was considered a key figure in the investigation. However, he was never charged in connection with Helen's disappearance. Matlick swore that Helen had boarded a flight from Minnesota to Chicago's O'Hare Airport. However, there is no evidence that she ever boarded the flight. Brach's lover, Richard Bailey, was sentenced to 30 years in 1995 for racketeering and conspiracy, which included horse sale frauds against Helen Brach and a number of other women. Interestingly, federal prosecutors also stated their belief in Bailey's involvement in Helen Brach's disappearance. In 2019, he was released from prison aged 89. Matlick died of natural causes in 2011 and was never charged with anything in connection to Brach's disappearance. Helen's family members are buried in Unionport, Ohio, near her birthplace of Hopedale. The marble monument includes an empty tomb with her name on it, in the hope that her body may one day be recovered. Why did it take so long for this additional information to emerge? With only sketchy details and much vital information still missing, will we ever know the full story of what happened to Helen Brach? Kyron Horman. Our last case is the sad case of Kyron Horman, a young boy who disappeared in 2010, aged just 7 years old. After his mother started suffering from challenging health issues, Kyron went to live with his father, Kane, and his new partner, Terry. On the 4th of June 2010, Kyron's stepmother, Terry, took him to Skyline Elementary School in Portland, Oregon, where he was a student in the 2nd grade. They attended a science fair at the school before she said goodbye. Terry says she saw Kyron walking down the corridor to attend his first class at around 8:45 a.m. and then drove away from the school to run some errands. Terry returned home where she uploaded photos to Facebook of Kyron attending the science fair. However, Kyron never made it to class and his teacher marked him as absent that day. Within an hour of saying goodbye to his stepmother, the young boy had seemingly vanished without a trace. After school, Terry and Kyron's father walked to the bus stop to wait for him. They expected that, like on any other day, Kyron would have taken the school bus home. However, after talking to the driver, they were horrified to discover that Kyron had never boarded the bus home. Immediately, they called the school, and the secretary reported that Kyron had not even made it to his first class that morning. What could possibly have happened to this little boy? Frustratingly for all involved, very little concrete progress has been made with the investigation into Kyron's disappearance, despite significant media interest and thorough searches of the area conducted by trained searchers and hundreds of volunteers. Despite reports from Kyron's mother that the search had been narrowed down to less than 100 acres, 10 years on, we still do not know what happened to Kyron. Kyron's mother, Desiree, has often stated her belief that Terry may be in some way responsible for Kyron's disappearance, and even tried to file a civil lawsuit against her in 2012. It must be noted that Terry Horman has never been identified as a suspect in this case. Indeed, not one suspect or even a description of a suspect has ever been identified in the 10 years since Kyron's disappearance. Whatever the circumstances behind this bizarre and tragic case, let's hope that one day Kyron's family gain closure and somehow find the strength to move on with their lives after enduring what is surely every parent's worst nightmare. It's sad to think that families and loved ones are left in the unknown. We can only hope that future advancements in technology may solve some of these mysteries and provide much-needed closure for the families of the victims. But what do you make of these mysterious cases? Be sure to let us know your thoughts in the comment section below and help us by growing this community while working to solve these unexplained mysteries. Thank you for watching, and don't forget to subscribe for more videos.